time, I'm 47 years old, and I am living in my third home in 3 years after a divorce, and then a subsequent apartment that had a cockroach infestation, and a subsequent apartment that had a secondhand smoke problem. And at this point, I am living in a sunny second-story apartment in a duplex in Leslieville. And it's actually, at $1,200 a month, it is a bargain for rent, right? Until I get the call. Yeah, June, it's your landlady. Because my landlady smokes. I got some bad news. Anyone want to guess what the bad news is? She's selling the apartment. And once again, I am looking at being temporarily homeless. Sometimes home is temporary. So when this happens to me, I put my foot down and I say never again, because I have been moving so many times in the past couple of years. And at this time, the average price of a one-bedroom condo in Toronto is $500,000, which is totally affordable, right? Totally. Well, not exactly. But I have a good government job, and I think if I just start saving now, I'll be able to get there. Which is easier said than done, because the average rent on a one-bedroom apartment in Toronto at this time is $1,750 a month. But I find what I'm looking for $1,500 a month, and it's a basement apartment in the beach. Now, this apartment has all the amenities of the modern condo. It's got a washer and dryer. It's got a dishwasher. It's got a deep tub, hardwood floors, and air conditioning. It's also got huge armies of creepy crawly things. It doesn't have much sunlight, and it's at the bottom of 3 hills, which means whenever I leave my house, there is nowhere to go but up. But this is okay, because this apartment, this home, is temporary, because this home is also close to the home of my boyfriend. And home is how I feel when I am in this man's arms. And so I am holding out for a miracle that one day this man will want to give up his own rent-controlled unit and make a home with me. And when he does, we will combine our incomes, and we will finally reach that adult milestone of finally owning a home of our own just outside the city where we can afford it. But that day doesn't come. Because in 2018, this man makes it clear to me that he doesn't want to make a home with me. And I make it clear to him that I need more. And suddenly, that temporary basement apartment at the bottom of 3 hills isn't feeling so much like a temporary home. It's feeling like a prison, because at this time, the average rent in Toronto has now skyrocketed to $2,200 a month. And when I look into getting a mortgage, even though I have a government job, I would have to make, as a first-time home buyer, $100,000 to even qualify. I'd have to be on the sunshine list. And that's not looking feasible right now. And so as I walk up those hills in the beach and I see all the for sale signs, I can't help but think about all these people cashing out with their millions and feeling like I have missed the boat. Like they are a have and I am a have-not. What is home? For some people, home is where you come from, right? For some people, home is your family, it's your heritage. So I grew up in Gloucester North, if anyone's from Ottawa, which is a suburb of Ottawa, and although I love my family and they love me, that never quite felt like home to me. In Ottawa, in fact, I always felt like there was something more for me, something more of me out there somewhere else. So when I'm 25, I leave my first hometown, and I go off in search of that. And along the way, I stop in Toronto. Now, some people say, wherever you lay your hat, that's your home. Well, over the next 23 years, my hat gets laid a lot. My hat gets laid at Oakwood and Vaughan. It gets laid at Finch and Yonge. My hat gets laid at Church and Wellesley. It gets laid at Bathurst and St. Clair. It gets laid in the Annex, on the Danforth, in Riverdale, in Leslieville, and finally on the beach. Yeah, my hat gets laid so many times, I'm surprised I don't have children that I don't know about. But I never wanted children. But at 48, I desperately want some roots. But where is home for me? Some people say home is where the heart is. My heart is on a rocky beach in the Maritimes. And my heart is in Airbnbs and boutique hotels and big cities. And my heart is in here, being on stage and telling my stories. And my heart is in that moment, when you're in the plane and the plane is just like taking off and you're taking air. And my heart is also in that moment when you're coming down the Don Valley and you go around the corner and you see the CN Tower and the skyline behind you, and you know that you're home. This is what home feels like to me. I never really wanted a white picket fence or two-car garage. Gardening, sorry, not for me. Some people love it. Gardening, home repairs, not for me. Costco, fascinating place, but what single woman needs that many olives? Not me, no. My regret wasn't so much that I didn't own a home to live in. If I'm completely honest, my regret was that I didn't have a home that I could sell. Because what would you do if you had like $500,000 or $1 million? Now, some people might buy a home, right? But what I would do is I would invest that money into my business, and I would grow my business, and I would set up my life so that I could live in Toronto part of the time, and I could travel to other places, and I could speak, and I could inspire, and I could do all those things that I love. That's what I would do with that money. What is home to you? Is it a person? Is it a place? Is it a feeling? So 2 months ago, I vacated my basement apartment at the bottom of 3 Hills in the beach. I sold almost all of my belongings, and I moved to a new home. I cut my expenses in half, and I now live at Queens Quay in Spadina in a 2.5 bedroom with 2 roommates. Yeah, and outside of my new home, there is an inlet from the lake where there's ducks and geese swimming in the morning. And in my new home, across the street, my yard is the Toronto Music Garden, and beyond that, the marina. And in my castle by the lake, there is also a library where I get to work and build my business, and there's a theater where I get to practice for when I'm doing a speech. In my home, I feel at home. I may not own property in this city, but I have other assets. I have my creativity and my passion and my drive and my will. And when I step outside of my home in the morning, I look across the lake, and what I see is the runway of Billy Bishop Airport and the planes taking off. And when I turn and I look behind me, I see the CN Tower and the city skyline. And the energy of Toronto, it crackles around me. At 48, I have everything I need to get to where I want to go. My future beckons. At 48, I have finally come home to me. When I say home, what do you think of? Do you think of a person? A place? A feeling? Do you think of you? Thank you.